first I wanna share with you my actual numbers. I'm gonna completely share everything. I'm even gonna share with you what my product was, which I know a lot of people don't do, but I wanna be completely transparent, completely honest about this experience. The second thing I wanna talk about is how I did it. Because even though I made a really big mistake, I also did something I'm really proud of, something really cool. $120,000 in profit. That's a good full-time income. And I did that while traveling and actually enjoying my life last year. And the third and the final thing I wanna talk about, and this is the most important thing. If you see one part of this video, please pay attention to this. I wanna talk about the big mistake I made. This is the biggest mistake, in my opinion, I've probably made in my life, at least when it comes to business or financial. So let's get started first with the numbers. And I sold about 12,000, 13,000 units, I'll put the real number down below, of my product last year, which is a crazy amount. And from that, I did about, I think, $360,000 in revenue, just on Amazon. But keep in mind, that number is revenue, not profit. There was about $114,000 in Amazon's fees. There's also the cost of the product. It's not free to make the product, it costs money. It cost me about $100,000 for the units that I sold on Amazon. And then there's also things like PPC, storage fees, and then there's just some other costs associated with running a business. After you factor in all these different costs, it did $120,000 in profit, which is absolutely amazing. I'm really proud that happened. And that's not even including Shopify, where I did almost $20,000 in revenue on Shopify. But I'll give you one quick little tip. When you're launching any product on Amazon, create a product launch group. This is a Facebook group where you get a bunch of friends, you get a bunch of people that are interested in buying your product before you even launch it. Then when you go to launch it, you tell everyone in there, and what ends up happening is you get a ton of sales, a ton of reviews right away. There's a lot more details to it that I'll share in the video I have up here and down below. But to really understand how I did this and to understand the really big mistake I made, I'm gonna tell you my story. About 6 years ago, I quit my corporate job pretty much cold turkey. To be completely honest, I was pretty depressed at the time, and I felt like I was stuck in jail at my corporate job, and I needed a way out. I needed some way to get my freedom. And so I quit my job cold turkey, not having a really strong plan. Basically was gonna start a dance clothing company with my mom. I knew nothing about dance clothing. I just knew that e-commerce and entrepreneurship was kind of my ticket out. I spent the next several years struggling. And at one point, even ended up having to move back in with my parents. And I felt completely defeated. I left a really good paying corporate job to go try out entrepreneurship. And here I am, living back in with my parents. And so ultimately I realized I don't want to sell dance clothing anymore. I don't know anything about dance clothing. It was really draining writing articles about dance clothing. I'd sit there and I'd write 7 top tips for dancers, pretending to be an 18-year-old girl that knows something about dance clothing when I didn't. So it was at that moment I realized I want to sell something that I'm passionate about, something that I believe in. And that's where I came up with this idea of creating a passion product. And for me, I've always been interested in eating healthy, in athletic performance, and I noticed something. There was a trend. People were starting to eat more healthy fat. And I noticed this in myself. I was eating a lot of nut butter. I started with peanut butter, went to organic peanut butter, went to almond butter, and I noticed there's no high-end, like ultra premium nut butter. And specifically, the nut butters that did exist weren't targeted towards the athletic community, even though a lot of my athletic friends would eat nut butters as a healthy source of fat. So I had an idea. I was gonna create my own nut butter. It's a macadamia coconut cashew blended nut butter. So I started creating different formulas. I started testing different things out. I started getting my friends into a Facebook group, and then I created an Instagram and letting people know that this product is going to be coming. And all these people in the launch group helped me create a better product. They helped me create the logo. They helped me create the packaging. They checked my Kickstarter page, which was another thing. Because I was making a unique product, I didn't go straight to Amazon. I wanted to raise some money for my first production run. So I ended up launching it as a Kickstarter. And this was the moment of truth, because this determined whether or not people were actually willing to give me money for the product or if they were just paying me lip service. So I launched my Kickstarter, and my goal was $10,000. I hit my goal of $10,000 within 3 days. I ended up going on to do about $15,000 from Kickstarter. So I took that money, I ended up cashing out my 401k. I put every last drop of energy, every last drop of savings into this product and did my first production run, which the first production run, to be fair, cost me $30,000. There was a ton of fear. I was really scared. I didn't know if this was, just because people bought it on Kickstarter, I didn't know if it was gonna work on Amazon. So I ended up launching it on Amazon, and the first month I did about $15,000 revenue. And the month after that, I did $30,000 revenue. This was my second month ever selling on Amazon. And I forgot to mention something. When I first quit my job, I had the goal, like the burning desire, to make $300 a day passive income, meaning that I could be, traveling, the money's coming in whether I'm working or not. And within my second month of selling on Amazon, I was making over $300 a day passive income. I'd hit my goal and I was super excited. I thought this was gonna take me a long time. And keep in mind, I'd been struggling in e-commerce for 4 or 5 years before that, before realizing I need to sell something that I was passionate about, before realizing I need to sell something unique and different than what everyone else was selling. So I was pretty excited. And I'm gonna get to the big mistake I made in just a second, but I have to say, last year was one of the best years of my life. It was by far the best year I've had since quitting my corporate job. There was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of pain I went through my first few years of entrepreneurship. I didn't know if this was gonna work. I didn't know if everybody that I admired was kind of lying to me and on how easy it was. And it wasn't easy to get to this point, but once I started following this specific formula that I came up with of creating a unique idea, validating it, and selling it on Amazon, it became easy. And so last year, I had one of the best years of my life. I traveled, I moved to my dream location, I did a lot of really cool things. And this leads into the big mistake I made last year. And please pay attention. These mistakes, there's really 3 sub-mistakes, caused me a lot of pain. Making these mistakes made me feel like a failure, despite hitting the goal that I set out to since I quit my corporate job. Because of these 3 things, I spent a lot of last year feeling like a failure, which is ridiculous, and we'll get to why that is in a second. But all 3 of these mistakes came about from fear, to be quite honest. So the first mistake I made was not properly projecting my inventory. I had no idea how many I was gonna sell of my product. I had no idea if I was gonna sell, 100 in a month or 1,500 in a month. So this caused a lot of issues because when I launched on Amazon, I only had, I think, 2,500, 3,000 units, and they started selling really fast. Now that sounds like a great problem to have, but here's the thing. If you run out of inventory on Amazon, Amazon does not like that. They might blacklist you, and you might be going from selling 1,500 units a day down to 100. And I've had friends that this has happened to. So I pretty much spent all of last year playing catch up. I would sell inventory really quickly, and then I didn't know how much I was gonna be selling. And so by the time I realized I was about to run out of inventory, I had to rush and try to go get a production run. And remember, there is some lead time on production. So I was constantly about to run out of inventory, and I even ran out of inventory a few times on Amazon. Luckily, when I did run out of inventory, it was only for a few days, and Amazon did not penalize me. But that leads into the second mistake I made, was poor cash flow management. Cash flow management is the most important thing nobody's talking about. It's not a sexy topic, but it's so important, and I wish someone would have sat me down and explained this to me before I got started. So please pay attention. So for me, every time I did a production run of my product, it cost $30,000. So every time I had to pay that, there was a lot of fear involved. I was scared whether or not I'd ever see my money again. But that's a topic for later in this video. So it would cost me $30,000, and I'd get somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000 units of my product. So what happens? I spend $30,000, my bank's down to 0. And then I slowly start to sell those products and my bank account slowly goes up. But here's where the issue comes in. I would have to buy my next production run, another $30,000, before my bank account had that $30,000. So what I would do is I'd always wait till the last second to order my production run till my bank account had gone up to that $30,000. Because remember, when you sell a product on Amazon, Amazon doesn't pay you right away, and there's some delay there. So what would happen for me is I'd always be waiting till the last second, which would cause me to always be on the verge of running out of inventory. And this leads into the third mistake, and the really big mistake I made. Because I was constantly on the verge of running out of inventory, I didn't push my business. I didn't try to increase sales, because if I would have increased sales, I just would have ran out of inventory quicker. And this was a huge mistake, because when I launched on Amazon, I was the only product like mine on there. And if I would have really worked hard and really tried to grow my business rapidly, I would have had a huge advantage. I would have probably dominated the market. And last year, instead of grinding and trying to grow the business rapidly, I relaxed a little bit. I enjoyed my life for the first time in years, for the first time probably since I quit my corporate job. There was two main competitors that came into my market, and you can learn a lot from your competitors. The first competitor I had, I didn't consider them much of a competitor because their branding was terrible, their marketing was terrible, and they weren't even on Amazon. But then not long after I got on Amazon, they got a huge chunk of investment in their company. And their packaging went from looking like this to looking like this. And if you notice, that's pretty similar to mine. Not only did they copy a lot of my design elements, they also added their products onto Amazon, where they're doing a really good job. The other company, the second company that launched, is Copy Keto. They copied my exact formula. Macadamia coconut cashew. I was the only macadamia coconut cashew blended nut butter on Amazon in the world that I know about. Not only did they copy my formula, they went to my manufacturer, the person that's been producing my product, and basically stole my manufacturer from me. Now my manufacturer just doesn't really want to work with me, because Copy Keto over here can produce way larger volumes. So my manufacturer basically told me he's gonna up my cost of production from $30,000 to $40,000, which really cuts into my margins. And I think if I would have striked while the iron is hot and really blown up my company in the early days, I wouldn't have had to deal with these competitors. I wouldn't have been as nervous. But here's the cool thing. Since these competitors have come in to my market, my sales have actually increased. In fact, one of the biggest sales days I had was when Follow Bomb was actually mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast. I had a huge spike of sales. And there's a good reason for this. What most people do on Amazon is they private label a product. They take an existing product that has a certain size pie, and they just take a piece of that pie. So you're only ever gonna get a percentage of those sales. I created a new category, a new type of product, which means a new pie. And what happens as competitors come into it, the whole pie grows. Now I go from owning the whole pie to only a percentage of a pie, but the whole pie grows. So here's the truth. I spent a lot of last year feeling like a failure, because everyone was telling me I had this really cool company, this really cool idea, and I wasn't growing it as fast as I think I could or I think I should. So here's my last piece of advice. Even though I made a lot of mistakes last year, I had a lot of fun last year. I hit my goal. And the truth is, I told myself, once I started making $300 a day, passive income, I was gonna start living my dream life. And I did. I started doing that last year. So I haven't been spending as much time on performance nut butter as I should. But what I have been doing is following my dream, which is helping people like you create their own dream life. If you're interested in creating your own passion product, I have a YouTube video I made that goes step by step on how to create your own passion product. I'll link down below. Make sure to subscribe, comment, and like this video. And most importantly, remember to not only just enjoy the journey, but enjoy the peak.